Welcome to the Burn Factory Podcast with Priest and Phoenix Rivera. Listen as the boys interview the biggest names in sports and entertainment. The Burn Factory starts now.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Burn Factory Podcast. I'm your host, Priest, joined by my co-host, my brother, the one and only Phoenix. Say what's up to the camera.
What's up, y'all?
This is called the Burn Factory for a reason. I was literally caught on fire. 50% chance to survive, but through that started this podcast because I believe every single person out there on this planet goes through a burn moment somewhere in their life.
You heard Priest say a burn moment. So a burn moment is a super hard time in your life that you just have to fight and to overcome to ultimately get you where you are today. And me and Priest believe that every single person on this earth go through burn moments that truly make them who they are. But Priest, what an amazing guest we have today. I am super excited for this episode. If you were an entrepreneur out here, you would definitely want to hear this. He's the president of Cookie Co. And man, do I tell you, these are some of the best cookies I've ever had. Blows crumble out of the way.
So please give a warm welcome to Matt Thomas.
Thank you for that intro.
What an intro.
Appreciate it.
So I just recently saw that Cookie Company just turned 3. Congrats on that.
Yeah, bro. It was wild. Yesterday was our 3-year anniversary.
Wow.
It's weird to think it's been 3 years. It feels a lot of times like, I'm like, how long have we been doing this? 7, 8 months? I'm like, no, 2020. What? How that? It's wild. Time goes by really quickly. So it's a trip for sure.
Did you ever think you would be this far, three years later?
To be honest, no. When we started, the goal was to survive the pandemic, right? We started, my wife, it was her idea. We started in our garage in 2019, late 2019. Plan was to be open in April of 2020. And then pandemic hit in January in Southern California. And at that point, it was like, I closed my other business, not by choice, but we had to. Lost all of our contracts there and kind of pivoted into this. I'm like, hey, let's get this open. Let's get the doors open. Let's have some income, right? And then the pandemic hit and it really affected us negatively. And the goal was to survive the pandemic with a single location. I think we have 25 open locations right now with another 12 to 15 scheduled this year, which is wild.
Wow. You actually did open your first store back in August of 2020. What was that like during COVID with all the regulations? And
yeah, so one day I'm going to give a TED Talk, and the topic is going to be how to start a business during a global pandemic with a pregnant wife and your house is on fire.
Yeah.
Because that's really what happened, right? And starting a business in any capacity, you know, whatever it is, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's a brick and mortar, whether it's a service-based industry, there's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of risk. There's money. There's so many moving parts, right? Starting it during the pandemic was, you call it a burn moment. I call them burn the ships moments, where you've got to commit to go all in, right? And that's kind of what we did. And it wasn't by choice. It was like, hey, we literally had a conversation, my wife and I, about a month before we opened our doors. We're like, hey, let's get the doors open. Let's work our butts off. We got 2 choices. We work our butts off and we succeed, or we work our butts off and we go bankrupt and start over. But the point is, you go all in, right? And so we did. And our community was fantastic. We had so much support and it grew pretty quickly. We had people from all over the country like, hey, we heard about Cookie Co on social media. Hey, we want to open one in our community. Hey, like places I never heard of, you know? So it was wild, you know?
were you still running your other business during this time?
So I had stepped back pretty significantly. I was a CBO there, so Chief Brand Officer. And a lot of my contracts were with some major companies. And they had as many companies do, their attorneys put certain things in, act of God clause. Hey, if something happens, we can pull back. And it was like, hey, 2 weeks to slow the curve. Let's pull back for a couple weeks. And we know how that worked out.
Ended out.
So we had, over the course of about 3 months, we lost, as a small company, we lost about $9 million in contracts. Oh. And that was like 80-90% of this year's revenue. And we're like, all right, forecasted revenue, right? And so we're like, we may not make it, so take us off payroll. Let's keep the development, keep the tech alive, keep the website going, keep the people on staff, and not pay ourselves for 2 months. It was a plan. And then it got to like May, and I'm like, hey, just take me off payroll completely, March. Take me off payroll completely. I'll be a consultant. I'll keep my network and keep working on that. And then by May, I'm like, hey guys, I'm doing this with my wife, as you guys know. this is my all in. I'm going in on this. I think we can make a move with this. I'll still consult, still be involved. And then by like June, everyone kind of like, we don't know what's going on. It kind of just fizzled out, and we basically just folded the company.
How hard was it for you to go all in on this?
You know, I think you got two kinds of people who go all in, people who make calculated decisions, and then you got risk takers. I'm more of a risk taker. I'm not the most educated person in the room, and that's why I'm okay, as you even said, hey, president. I was a CEO, and I wore that hat uncomfortably because I'm not a CEO type of a person. I could not wait for the moment that I could hire somebody better than me. And we've since brought on a new CEO who was my advisor for about 9 months, who's now our CEO. And so it was, for me, like I said, I'll go all in with a low pocket pair, you know, because I think I just play it right. And so I constantly take risks, and I think when you take risks and you have a good network and you're not afraid to lose, but more importantly, you refuse to quit. That's one thing that I've learned. One of my favorite quotes is in business, but I think in life in general, people don't fail, they give up. And businesses don't fail, they give up. I think you can only fail once you quit. Once you throw in the flag, it's over. If you are still going and you haven't given up, there's always a chance. I mean, you said 50% chance to recover. You know, I've got an aunt who was sick, and she felt ill, uncomfortable. She goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, hey, you've got cancer through your entire body. You've got about 6 weeks to live. She died like 8 weeks later. And I'm like, how'd she not known that? Because, I mean, you don't just get cancer in your whole body over the course of a weekend. She knew this she didn't know, but this was for years.
Yeah.
And I think there's a switch in our minds that when we hear what their chances are of success or chances of failure or whatever are, I think some of us make a choice to like, I'm going to beat this, or others, unfortunately, like, all right, sounds like it's over. And they kind of cater to that mindset, you know?
You gotta have a good mindset, man. You can never focus on the bad. You always gotta focus on the good, because if you do focus on the good will come out of it. Whenever I was in the hospital, I wasn't thinking about losing my life. I was trying to get out of the hospital and go do what I wanted to do in golf, and it's all in the mindset, baby.
100%. Mindset is everything, man. And I've learned that through business, you know, business connections I've made. You and I have a lot of mutual friends who are UFC fighters and champions and, you know, just badasses, right? And you'd have conversations with these people, whether it's they're a fighter, they're a business owner, an entrepreneur, a pro surfer, a pro skater, whatever. A lot of these people, it's like, yeah, I go for it. I don't give up. I don't know what that's like. You know, I had a previous business associate who wanted to give up on their business, and I'm like, hey, don't give up yet. Have you reserved? You know, have you used all your resources? And I remember she asked me. She said, why do you care if I give up? Why not just let me quit? I'm like, because the thought of that like would keep me up at night. Like I can honestly say that I've never actively quit something before. Like I've had opportunities and things that, you know, my last company wasn't by choice. I went all in to the point where I wasn't being paid for months on end, not knowing what the future was like. I'm not saying never pivot, but you know, go through all your resources, right, before you just give up. That feeling scares me.
Yeah.
Straight up.
It is scary because I feel like once you start something, you like have to finish on it. And if you don't, I'm like you, I don't think I could sleep at night if I didn't give it my all.
No. I mean, I get anxiety when I hear about people quitting, right? Like not jobs, but like shutting down their business or giving up on their dream or whatever, you know? I don't remember who it was, but I saw, it might have been Dana White or somebody was doing a reel, or might have been Joey Diaz. I'm pretty sure it was Joey Diaz, actually. He was on Joe Rogan podcast, and it was just a clip, and he talked about, like, you know, go to like a grocery store or a hotel and see somebody working as a janitor, right? And say, their plan was never to do that. There's nothing wrong with it, he said, which I agree, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, was that their plan? Was that what they wanted to do? Was that their dream? No. They like gave up on their dream because it got hard, it got difficult, circumstances changed, right? And I think we're all in different places, different points in our life. We can make different sacrifices, but at the end of the day, like you said, mindset is everything. Like once you have your mind made up, and you're passionate about it and you want it, you go after it and you commit. Like that's the deal, is just commit.
You got to commit in everything in life. But all right, Matt. So on this show, we do use the acronym BURN. So each letter is a different time in your life. So starting with B, B is beginning. So take us back to the beginning. Take us to your childhood. Was there any burn moments that you had to fight to overcome that you could share with us?
Yeah. So I like that acronym. I like the BURN, et cetera, beginning, et cetera. That's cool. Yeah. So my childhood was, I think I had a good childhood, grew up in the 90s, which I think the 90s were the best generation, bro.
Hey, man, I wish I grew up in the 90s. Come on.
There's a reason it's making a comeback, right? The music was dope.
Yes.
I mean, things were rad. I got 4 kids, right? And like back in the 90s, I didn't have a cell phone. My parents just knew I was riding from one friend's house to the other house on who knows what side of town. And I came home when the lights went off, when the street lights went off, right? Or when they came on, I should say. So I grew up in Northern California. And my dad was a sergeant. He worked at Folsom Prison for a number of years, and he transferred, and I grew up in basically Redding, California. So that's where my family's from, born and raised. Went to a lot of schools there, back to the burn moment there. I think the biggest burn moment childhood-wise was probably, I was actually telling my wife about this. From kindergarten to my senior year in high school, I went to 11 schools.
Oh.
And I think that was a burn moment for me in some ways because I had to learn how to make friends. I had to learn how to be the new kid and regularly how to make conversations, how to communicate, how to do these things at a young age where I didn't realize that they would probably benefit me later in life. Like I'm very comfortable walking up to somebody and be like, hey, dude, I'm love what you're doing. I think it's really cool. Tell me how'd you start this, right? And then connections. That's how I know a lot of the guys that you and I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just, hey, so-and-so, you're friends with my homie. Oh yeah, he's great. What's your name? Cool. What do you do? Oh, do it. I follow you guys on Instagram, whatever, right? But yeah, I think that's for me, going back to the beginning, that's kind of one of the biggest burn moments is being the new kid all the time kind of forced me to adapt and have different social skills, I think you could say. It wasn't easy. And at the time it felt like, dude, are my parents in witness protection program? We're being chased by the mafia. Why are we moving so much, right? And so now that I'm older, I look at it, I'm like, it wasn't a negative thing. I think it provided a lot of benefits to me,
Why were you guys moving so much?
So my dad, long story short, and I don't know how much I should get into. He'd probably be like, it's private. But so my dad, back in the early 90s, he actually started working with a couple of his friends when he worked for the state of California. They actually were going to Russia when the economy collapsed in Russia. And the ruble was like 1 billion rubles for like a loaf of bread. My dad was going over there and buying night optic goggles and scopes and things like that for like $18. And he was coming back with his friends and they were selling them, and they had contracts with the state, they had contracts with police departments, military, et cetera, and they were doing this. Then the state was like, hey, you can't do this anymore, and they shut him down. And then after that, he kind of moved around quite a bit. And then he retired from the state of California, and then had a few different job opportunities he was chasing. He was a hustler, He was always grinding. He was an entrepreneur. My dad's story is crazy. I mean, if you guys ever want to have a random person on the podcast, talk to my dad about his burn moments, dude.
Let's get him on.
Yeah, we'll have to get him on.
Straight up. I mean, I could share some of it, but it's wild. I keep telling you need to write a book because it's unbelievable. I'm like, he moved out. He got an apartment when he was 13 years old, right? His dad died when he was 4. Mom became an alcoholic afterwards, married some guy, abandoned him. He lived in a trailer with his grandma. My uncle was, I can't say what he was associated with on camera because they don't like that, but he rode with like a motorcycle gang, and he was like the sergeant of arms, dealt drugs for him and weapons and things like that. And he basically raised my dad, right? So you can imagine like what my dad kind of grew up around.
Yeah.
So he had just had a wild life, and so I think my dad, like all parents, they do the best job that they know how. And being my dad's situation, I think he did a decent job raising a heathen like myself, So, but yeah, I think that's kind of the beginning for me is growing up in Redding, California, and growing up. And I lived there until I was about 20, went and wrestled at a JUCO up there for a couple of years, Shasta College. And the plan was to go to Fresno. And then Title IX kicked in 2005. They canceled the program. I was actually just talking to Uriah Faber about this at Power Slap Championships we were at.
Yeah.
He was coaching at UC Davis at the time that I was transferring to Fresno. And so they lost a program, we lost a program. Like all of Northern California schools had lost the programs right around the same time. So after that, that was the end of my childhood, really.
Yeah.
What made you get into wrestling?
So when I was really young, my dad, like I said, he was always hustling. He was an entrepreneur. He owned a gym. And throw back to UFC turning 30, Ken Shamrock and my dad were good friends. And Ken Shamrock and his brother Frank used to work out at our gym. And so when I was about 3 years old, my dad, he'd start to say, hey, let's get you into wrestling next year. So I remember being like 4 years old to go to my first practice. My dad wrestled in college as well before he went to the military. So I started wrestling when I was about 6. Wrestled from the time I was 6 until 7th grade. I took a year off because we moved middle of the school year, and then started up again in 8th grade, then through high school and then through college, and pretty much wrestled year round through high school, you know? So I just kind of learned and got into it really young. And some of the people my dad was connected with, I'm like, Ken Shamrock, Greg Gibson, you know, Olympic champions. I'm like, those guys are studs. I want to be like that at 6 years old, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Did you ever want to get into the UFC eventually, or no?
I mean, I don't want to say that I think I could have done it. Would I have liked to have done it like any kid who wants to be a pro basketball player? Love the idea of it. Do I think I would have been super successful? I don't know. Had I committed, who knows? I had a few amateur fights. I had 4.
Oh.
And a small, it was called ECW. And it was West Coast. Like there was a couple in Vegas, one in Vegas that I fought in, one in Reno, one in Salt Lake City, and then I think the other one was in Billings, Montana. And so I had 4 fights. I won all 4 of those by,
There you go.
by TKO and knockout. One was submission, but the others
nice.
were early stoppage. And then my wife and I were like, well, let's get married. I'm like, all right. So I got to get a job that pays more than $150 in a hotel. You know what I mean? So that was it. And then I started doing door-to-door sales. I did door-to-door sales for years through college. That's how I really got into being an entrepreneur, just knocking doors.
You always had that go-get-it mentality.
I had to, man. Like I said, I think a lot of it had to do with just growing up the way I did and like learning, like seeing like successes, seeing struggles. But at the end of the day, like the successes came after the struggle. And I saw my dad succeed and thrive, and I saw him struggle through times. And those things were just ingrained in me. You know, I learned at an early age that, you know, nobody was going to do it for me. I was on my own. Like nobody's coming to save me. You know, like kill what you eat mentality, right? Or eat what you kill mentality. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of started doing that and hustled, and I think it's led me through some interesting times of growth and opportunity and just hustle, you know?
That's the mentality you have to have, though. To build something great, you just got to be knocking down doors. And for us, that's what we've really tried to do, only being 6 months old with our business and our brand that we're trying to build.
You guys are killing it.
Knock doors.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys are killing it. I love it.
My dad always has a quote. It's some will, some won't. So what? Who's next?
Love that.
And I feel like that's a mentality that you have to have as an entrepreneur, because it's hard.
Oh yeah.
It is very hard, and you have to take risks. You have to be able to put everything you have into your belief and into your mission. If you don't, then it won't be successful.
Well, to your dad's quote, you know, I was just talking to my CEO the other day, and we were saying like, hey, like, we got some things we got to work out. We're always transitioning, and with a new CEO, there's transitions and some new hires and some budgets and forecasts and difficulties, and you know, you got attorneys for a reason. Things happen, right? Like trademark things we're fixing, and there's days that suck. There's days that are headaches, right? And I think at the end of the day, I was telling her, I said, you know, one of the things that drives me as a business owner is I know a lot of business owners. I know a lot of successful business owners, right? And I read a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been on a few podcasts with other hosts who are successful, you guys, or starting podcasts. And I've never met or heard of a business owner who's successful today who it was easy for, right? It just doesn't exist. If it was easy, there would be no books by entrepreneurs, because nobody wants to hear about how easy your life was to become an entrepreneur. They want to hear like, hey, what was your burn moment? How did you start? Why did you start? Why did you continue? How did you continue? That sounds like hell on earth. Like, but you did it, and look at you now. You've got a multi-million-dollar company, right? Like Dana White, right? What did he do? How did he start? Yeah. You know, I mean, there's so many guys who are successful today who, where did they start? You know, and they made a decision, and you know, I have an acronym that I have to use. Called DAP. It's just DAP. It's decide, act, and persevere, right? So you start with decision, you take action, you continue to persevere after you start that first step, like bracing for the storm, bracing for impact, continuing, just persevering, you know?
But during the tough times too, embrace it all, because you learn the most out of it.
Have to, you know, enjoy the journey, right? Versus focusing on the destination. I mean, I jokes aside, like I have a master's degree in freaking franchising business. Hypothetically, there is no master's degree for this, but in 3 years of doing this to the point we have now, where we have the payroll we have, the employees we have, all these things, learned a ton, you know? So enjoying the journey and enjoying those moments, taking the burn moments when they come and, you know, remembering them and building strength from those, like those, it all adds up.
For sure.
The school of hard knocks. That's what my dad always says.
For sure.
You're living through the school of hard knocks.
For sure.
You can learn way more doing that than just being in school and in a classroom.
Bro, I went to college. I got a degree in business marketing. And within a year after graduating, trying to find a job, half the stuff that I was taught was outdated. Like they didn't do case studies on influencer management or social media for marketing. Like we were reading like PR reports from the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Alaska in 1989. You're like,
What?
How does this come? Bro, like that was the stuff they taught you. And it was what they knew, right? And so it's like, I think a lot of education is probably 10 to 12 years too old when it's being taught. Because like, look at AI. Well, I mean, what professor there's not a professor out there who's over 45 years old who can even explain what AI is or even be how to teach you to get an undergrad and how you're going to compete with AI. Newsflash, you're not, right? Like you might be able to utilize AI, but they're not even teaching that yet. So you get a degree. Congratulations, you graduated in June with a degree. All right, well, AI is really the next move. I got to deep dive into this and figure out how this is going to affect my job, the future, my employment opportunities, right? I mean, there's a lot going on.
AI is getting scary, man.
Bro, listen, I find it interesting that if you look back on Elon Musk, for years he was saying that AI would destroy humanity. And now he's embracing it. And I'm like, maybe Elon Musk is AI and this was all reverse psychology.
Oh.
I still
never
like
thought
it.
about that.
I just remember him and Joe Rogan used to talk about it. And now he's all about like, the Neuralink in the brain, AI. And I'm like, dude, 5-6 years ago, you didn't like AI. And now...
Something changed.
Something changed.
What was that burn moment that changed for him?
I don't know.
We'll have to find that one.
Have you on the podcast?
Talk about it.
For sure. Wow, Matt, that was a crazy beginning in your life. I can't even imagine transferring schools 11 times growing up. And yeah, I couldn't even imagine. I'm sitting here thinking about it. And like, I went to school and now I'm homeschooled, but transferring 11 times, it's brutal. But it's time to go to you and burn unfortunate. I believe through those unfortunate times, the best things more than likely come out of them. You gotta have a good mentality to them. But I kind of want to explain to you what happened with me. It was the last week of school. I was in 6th grade. Teacher was doing a science experiment that involved fire. It's called the fire black snake. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
It's supposed to form this charcoal snake with like sand, rubbing alcohol, baking soda. So she takes us outside and she's like, all right, everyone sit in like a horse-shaped U circle, good couple feet away from like here to the camera right there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working, and she had rubbing alcohol to her side because she thought like if she dumped a little bit in, it can kind of work and start to form, but it's not. She grabs the rubbing alcohol, dumps it into the flame, and it bursts like a bomb. And I was immediately rushed to ICU.
That's the last thing I remember.
Last thing I remember. And then I remember kind of, it's so weird because in a traumatic experience, you don't really remember what's going on in the moment. You just kind of remember pieces of it.
Sure.
So I just remember getting into the hospital bed and thinking it was a dream. I swear, I was like, am I living in a dream? And I literally had to pinch myself because I was like, oh my God, no, this is real. And but through those tough times, good can come out of it. And I remember waking up, having my dad go get my putter, and I would put golf balls into a glass jar as I'm all hooked up to everything. Can't even see because my whole face is swelled up. And I would constantly be putting golf balls into a glass jar. And I could either worry about losing my life, or I can think about the good and the positive that brings me joy in that tough time. And that's when I was like, that's my burn moment. I'm not going to worry about losing my life. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm going to worry about right now and get out of this hospital. And I won the fight.
Dude, that's deep. That's deep. I mean, a lot of decisions in that moment, right? The thing I think about when I've never been in a hospital bed like that, right? Never been in one of those moments. But I think like the thoughts that you have, the demons you're facing in that time, like your mind can be your biggest advocate or your biggest enemy, right? Plays tricks on you, right? Especially in those moments of like desperate moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's wild. Because you've told me your story before, not to that extent, but I'm always like, man, like what was going through your head,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's hard because like
For sure.
he was like 12 years old, man.
For sure.
And then you're thinking like, man, as bad as it sounds, there's so many bad people in this world. Like, why him? He's so young. He's
Sure.
so pure. He's my little freaking brother, man. Like, how could this happen to him? But in the long run, those unfortunate burn moments really build you to who you are and show you that if I can overcome this, I can overcome anything, whether it's business, whether it's sports.
For sure.
You can overcome it. And I think burn moments are such a crucial thing to people's lives, and they really need to understand it. So for you, being an entrepreneur, building a business from the ground up in one of the hardest times in this country, were there some unfortunate burn moments that you had to fight to overcome?
Dude, so you do BURN, right? Okay, cool. So, the unfortunate circumstances moment for me, I would say regarding business was definitely signing like a 7-year lease, being excited to open a business with my wife, chasing her journey, ready to support her. This was her idea, her vision. They're all her recipes. She does it all from scratch, right? She's a fantastic baker. And then January hearing about COVID, right? And then we're like, oh, that's weird. I wonder how bad it's going to be. And then within a few weeks, it was like everything shut down. Like the city stopped doing permitting. They started giving out stimulus and unemployment checks. So all of our construction crew quit. Things just got progressively worse, right? To the point where in March, when we realized we weren't going to open, my wife just started selling cookies on Instagram, and people would Venmo her and pick them up from our garage. And so we have customers now who are like, I've been buying since your garage. We're like, dude, A, we wouldn't be here without you, but B, that's crazy that we started in a garage and now we have shops in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Frisco, Texas, and Gretna, Nebraska, and places popping up in Florida now, like all over the country. So I think for us, like the unfortunate thing regarding business was, starting during the pandemic, not ideal, but you pivot and you move and you do what you make it through the way you have to, right? And then that was in March. June, she's like, hey, we need to talk. I'm like, yeah, what's up? I'm pregnant. I'm like, dope. Okay. She's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, listen, we already had 3 kids at the time. I just lost my business literally that month. We're opening another one. Global pandemic. World's in chaos. You can't even buy toilet paper, right? Things are bad when you can't buy toilet paper, right? She said, what are you thinking? I'm like, I'm just honestly like trying to think of like how life can get that much harder. And she's like, yeah. And then a few months later, we finally open our doors. She's 5 months pregnant this time, 4 months pregnant, whatever. So she's sick. Working 80 hours a week, we both are. 2 months after we get our store open, our house catches on fire. So now she's 7 months pregnant, right? And burnt down house, brand new business, 3 kids who we have to homeschool because the schools are shut down. So I'm now a homeschool teacher, new business owner, pregnant wife, and we don't have a house, like legit. So trying to find a house during the pandemic to Airbnb or
Can't even imagine.
it was impossible, right? So we ended up staying with my mother-in-law for a number of months. We had, we all shared our room, right? Kids slept on the floor. It was wild. So that, I mean, for me, business-wise, there was a lot of life lessons in those moments. A lot of hardship. I think everybody struggled during the pandemic. Obviously they did, and so many people lost more than we did, right? But like you were saying, like you got choices in those moments. Like, are you going to dig deep and focus on the positive, or are you going to let the negative atmosphere, the negative environment, the negative things in your life, are you going to let them beat you, right? Facing your demons, right? I think you kind of have to, pound your chest and say, let's go, be your own hype man and get through those moments because they suck for sure. But I mean, I would honestly, it sounds cliche, but I wouldn't change any of it. I really wouldn't, because I learned so much in those moments, like when we first opened our business, my wife, I was like, oh, she's pregnant. So she'd go to the bathroom and she was feeling sick. And one time I couldn't find her and I go in the warehouse. And we've been open for maybe 4 months at this time and our house had burnt down. And I go in the warehouse that's attached to our building and she's back there and she's like crying. I'm like, what's up? She's like, this is hard. I'm like, for sure. You know, like we were not doing well financially. We put all of our savings, all of our investment, took out cash advances. The bank we were doing a loan with for our business pulled it because we act of God clause, it wasn't funded, so we're not going to do it, right? And it was just like, all right, we could go bankrupt and lose everything with small children, right? So, I mean, for us, those were unfortunate moments, dude. But my wife, she runs marathons. She's a badass. She's way better than I am in so many things. She's like, we got work to do. Let's go, you know? And that's the mindset, is like, let's go, you know? So
during those tough times, did you have something that brought you guys joy to some degree?
For sure. I think for us, you know, seeing when we first opened our doors, and still, but when we first started the Cookie Co., we had little victories every day with new customers coming in, successes, new records, you know. Hey, this was our best day yet. Hey, this is our best week yet. Like, full transparency, when we started, we had a goal, like, hey, if we do this our first month and just do this monthly, like, we'll be okay. And it was pretty modest, right? It wasn't like, hey, we're trying to be crazy successful during a pandemic. We were pretty realistic with our goals. And I think that helped, that we were realistic instead of saying, hey, we want to do this or else, right? Like, we were realistic. Like, what do we need to survive? What do we got to do? Pay for our kids, our mortgage, et cetera, right? And like, our first 4 days open, we hit our monthly goal. We're like, whoa. I'm like looking at the numbers. I'm like, did we make a calculation error? Like, what? No. And like, continually, like, we just crushed it. Like, we did, in our first 2 months, we did what we wanted to do for the entire year.
Wow.
Our first year, like, expected, right? So there's a lot of little wins that keep you going, and you focus on the little wins, and you focus on, okay, what's next? And then you get to a point where, like, okay, we're consistent, how do we grow? And that's when franchising came about. You know, we were going to do a spot in Rancho Cucamonga and Newport Beach. We're looking at a couple spots we want to do. And then we had people from, like, Virginia and all over the country that DMing us, like, hey, we heard about you online. We saw you on social media. Like, we want to open one in our town. And I'm like, first of all, how do you spell franchise? I knew nothing about it, right? To the point now where it's like, hey, we got a franchise attorney, we got employees we're hiring, we're doing this, we're doing that, got an FGD in place. Like, cool, let's go. Brand new franchise model, right? For us, like, knew nothing about this. So suddenly I went from, like, losing a business, serving cookies at our shop, right? And I love that job. One of my favorite jobs ever, talking to people while serving their cookies. People come to buy cookies on a good day or a bad day. You meet some great people. To running franchises and supporting franchisees around the country, you know? It was a trip. Wow. So, yeah. It's been fun, though.
How hard was it to franchise? Because you're almost just giving away your baby into someone else's hands.
Yeah, so with franchising, there's a lot that goes into it. But to your point, with, you know, you want to work with the right people to protect the brand, right? Like, brand integrity is important. Customer experience is important, right? Brand affinity, brand awareness, the recipe, the quality, you know, all those things matter, because they're all my wife's recipes. We use certain ingredients. Like, one of the things about us that makes us different, like you said in the intro, we're better than other companies, right? I don't mention them a lot because I don't know if you know, they like to sue people. They sue people all the time. It's all the Cookie Wars. Look it up. Look, just Google Cookie Wars. It sounds stupid, but they've sued like a bunch of companies just for selling cookies in a box. And I'm like, you want me to wrap them in saran wrap? What should I do? Right? Like, it's weird. So I don't like to talk a lot of crap about them.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, and they tried with us when we were in our garage still. Like,
they tried suing you.
They sent us a demand letter.
Could you say the company?
To wait?
Which company? Could you say which company?
The C word.
It's the C word, really?
Crumble, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they sent us a demand letter when we first opened, saying, like, we can't use the color black. Well, I wear black every day. Most restaurants, it's the most common color. We can't use black. We can't use boxes. Delete your social media. There was like 15 requests. We gave them to our attorney. He's like, this is a scare tactic. This is what they try to do. They hope that you guys are stupid enough to basically agree to these terms and ultimately sabotage your own business. And I'm like, well, kindly respond with the following. He's like, yeah. I'm like, F you. Yeah. Because I'm not going to say that. But I'm like, I've already lost everything. I just started this. I'm not a pushover. Like, I will keep on swinging until I'm dead. Yeah. Right. And so that like sparked a fire in my wife and I back then, I think, when we first got that letter from them. So I thank them in some ways for attributing a lot of our success, because you guys just pissed us off a little bit and made us like, F it, let's go. It's like that clip. It's from The Bear. Did you watch The Bear on FX?
I don't think so.
The guy that's sitting there in an interview and he's like, and he's getting choked up and his hair is all crazy. He's like, and that really hurt. And I was like, all right, fuck you. Watch this, right? Have you seen that clip?
No, I've
You
never
have to
seen
show
it.
it to.
That
That's
clip
the
is
show to us
legit.
after.
That's kind of how it was. Like, all right, F you, watch this. And then we
Yeah.
just went ham. We went for it, So the plan was, again, survive the pandemic. We weren't even considering franchising or growing until they came at us with this. And we're like, F it, let's go. So then we're like, let's be a national franchise. And now we're doing stuff in Canada and we have interest in the UAE. And
Congrats.
it's wild, man.
Did you ever hear from them after?
We went back and forth. Our attorneys did a couple of times. And then it ended kind of just falling apart. They're like, hey, agree to this. And we're like, okay, that's easy. We agreed to it. It was basically like, don't do this. And we were not even doing this. But okay, we'll continue to not do that. That was it.
Yeah.
And they were amicable. We haven't heard about them. We just haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. We're chill. That was almost 3 years ago now. It was like right when we started. So yeah, probably 2.5 years ago.
That's tough.
I gotta ask this before we go to the next acronym, but how did your house burn down?
Dude, so our house was built in like 1978, right? And we had this old bathroom in the hallway. And it had like, if you've been in like homes built in the 70s, or seen a car from the 70s, or listened to a lot of music in the 70s, I'm convinced that like architects, musicians, car designers were doing a lot of cocaine and drugs because the designs just sucked, bro. The design sucked. And so like you go in our bathroom and like you had this like weird fluorescent light that dropped down above the mirror, right? And it was like a wall. It's like a soffit, right? So my wife's like, I hate this. Let's just knock that out and then just put regular like recessed lighting and paint the bathroom and do a new tile shower and just a very light makeover because it was an ugly, and we had done a lot of the house. So they took out the soffit, and the contractor is like, I'll put the lights in tomorrow. And I was actually in Utah with our attorney at the time, setting up our franchise stuff, right? And I said, the bathroom will be done within a few days. Cool. So I'm in the hotel room, and I get a call from my wife at like 4 a.m. She's like, hey, I'm like, what's up? She's like, our house is on fire. And I literally jumped out of bed, like in the hotel room, like go to like my kids' rooms just out of like reaction. And I'm like, I'm in a hotel 800 miles away. I'm like packing where are the kids? She's like, I'm getting the kids out. We're getting out right now. Like, what should I do? I'm like, call 911. I could hear the alarm going off. Like our dog was barking. I'm like panicking, right? So I packed just threw on clothes and like left half my stuff in the hotel, got an Uber, went straight to the hotel. It's like a movie when you go to different airline counters, like, hey, I need a ticket ASAP. Like, well, we only have first class. I'm like, I'll take it. Like, it leaves in 4 hours. I'm like, next, go to Southwest, go to like whatever freaking British Airlines. I'm like, do you guys go to Ontario, California? I need a flight. And finally they're like, hey, this place has a flight leaving in 45 minutes. We're gonna call them. I got a flight and I got home. And like the firefighters were still putting out the fire, right? Oh. So my wife, kids, all of them were good. They all got out. Dogs got out. So that was a crazy moment. Also a time of reflection where like, this could have been so much worse. Mm-hmm. Right? So the house actually started because the contractor knocked down the soffit, and instead of doing the lights, he put the wiring back up there to get to tomorrow, and it caused insulation to kind of spark.
Yeah.
And it just kind of started smoldering at night, and she woke up to go to the bathroom because she was pregnant. Mm-hmm. She goes to the bathroom like 6 times a night when she's pregnant. And she's like, I smell smoke. And the house flames in the whole hallway next to our kids' rooms, and it was wild, dude.
It's like a nightmare movie scene.
It was probably to this day, probably the second scariest day of my life, for sure.
Where were you at?
I was in Utah. I had meetings with we had a franchise attorney out there at the time that we were using. And I was out there meeting with them. And so I had meetings there, and then I had a meeting the next morning. I was flying home. And so she called me, and I was in the hotel. And it was feeling helpless with my wife and children, like literally in active danger. Like that, like to me, like it still bothers me. Like I should have been there, but there's no way you could have known that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like not like I failed in that moment, but like that was an opportunity or a moment where I should have protected or been there, and I wasn't. So that bothers me. That eats me up a little bit as a husband, father, protector kind of a feel, you know. But yeah, that was scary, dude.
Mm-hmm. You said that was the second scariest time. What was the first?
Probably when my wife was pregnant with our second kid. Being a father is a lot of scary moments. You guys will learn that someday, bro. Like first time your wife says, "Hey, I'm pregnant," that's terrifying because you're like,
What?
right? But then like our second kid, just scary moment with her pregnancy. You know, she went for an ultrasound. She's about 7 months pregnant, and the doctor's like, "Hey, you lost the baby." She's like, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, I haven't felt a move today." So then she started getting panic, and so they send us to a specialist because at that point the baby's too big to just have a miscarriage. So they do an operation to remove the baby, and we go to do an ultrasound like 8 hours later at the specialist, and he's like, "Let me go get another doctor." We're like, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "Let me get another doctor." And so like, "We don't know how to tell you this, but that doctor shouldn't have told you that. Your baby's fine." We're like, "What?" Like for like 12 hours straight, we were just bawling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just sick feeling. And the baby was fine, you know? Like just the doctor got a bad angle on the ultrasound. There was no heartbeat. And he's like, "I don't feel it move. You've lost this child. We'll have to go see a specialist." He was a very cold, terrible bedside manner. I wish I knew that dude's name. I hate that guy. So that was scary, bro. As a father, that was a terrifying day.
I can imagine that.
It was terrifying, you know. But again, as soon as he basically said, "Hey, I don't know how to say this," the doctor effed up. Like it went from being one of the worst days of my life to one of the best. Like love having kids, love being a father, but it was like it made that pregnancy and that child that much more special, right? Because you're like, "Man, I thought we lost this dude, and he's good. Like, are you sure? Like, yeah, he's good. Like, you're positive." He's like, "Yes." Listen, heartbeat going. You're like, okay, you know. So that was probably one of the worst days of my life. Probably the scariest day of my life as an adult. You know, I'm sure I had scary moments of the dark when I was a kid or whatever.
Yeah,
but as an adult, like real life moments, like that was scary.
Wow.
So,
You've been through a lot of unfortunate burn moments, man.
Bro, I just looked at a photo yesterday that my wife posted outside of our cookie store, and I was like, "When did my hair get so gray?"
Oh, I saw you post that on
Bro,
Instagram.
I shared the story. I was like, "When did my hair get this gray, bro?" I'm like, and my wife's like, "Your hair is so gray." I'm like, I wear a hat a lot just out of habit. I've always worn a backwards hat since I was a kid, skating and BMXing. I just always wore a hat. And so like some days I don't. I'll do my hair some days, and I did. And I'm like, I gotta wear a hat more. My hair is so gray, bro. And it's from businesses and stress and moments like that. And,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, dude.
You should throw some color in there.
Bro, I bleached it last year because a friend's like, "You should bleach your hair." I'm like, I will. He's like, "You won't do it." I'm like, "I don't care." So I bleached it. And my wife's like, "I actually think it looks good." I'm like, "Maybe I should do that again now that it's gray." But I'm like, I'll go with that salt and pepper George Clooney look a little bit. Maybe.
Salt and pepper.
That Silver Fox look.
Do you think you'll do it? You'll go back to blonde or no?
I mean,
Maybe.
I'm pretty spontaneous, dude. I don't care.
Never say- yeah, never
It's
say
just
never.
hair. It grows back. Like I'll bleach mine if you bleach yours. So we'll do it together.
That's tough.
Dude,
I
you
don't know
got-
if my mom would let me.
Dude, you got beautiful golden locks, bro. You got long hair. You look good.
Should we? Maybe.
Should we? No, this is you.
Maybe. No, me and Matt. Me and
Your
Matt.
mom's a
Oh.
hairstylist.
My mom's a hairstylist. I would only do it if she did it.
I'll do
She'll
it.
do both of ours.
Text her after this and tell her to do it. I'll do it right now.
Oh my god.
I don't even care.
I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. It'd be tough. It'd be hard. I love my hair. I don't know.
You've got good hair. I've got a
I do.
receding hairline. I'm gray. I've got nothing to lose. You've got a lot to lose.
Hey, I got a big forehead, so that's why I'm always wearing that.
They call that a 5 head.
a 5 head.
Mine's like 10 head, if that's even a thing.
This portion of the Burn Factory podcast is sponsored by Phoenix Salon Suites. Please visit Phoenix Salon Suites at PHENIX Salons SALON Suites SUITES.com to find one near you. All right, Matt, it's time to go to R and Burn Ridiculous. Unfortunate burn moments always make to who we are, and I think all those times in your life have really built you to have a successful business that you have today. But R stands for ridiculous. So is there any ridiculous moments that you could share with us?
Bro, this should be called the Burn Factory because I feel like I've got so many R moments in my life, dude. My life is ridiculous, like straight up. Like my wife and I joke around like all the time. She's like, I feel like we should have a reality show just because she's like, there's so many crazy moments in our lives that they almost feel staged and made up. Like most reality shows are like, oh, this is reality. And it's not. Like my moments actually are just real life, bro. I would say, yeah, here's one. So there's this dude named, I don't know if I should say his name. I just remember his name, so I want to say it. But
Say it. Say his name.
His name's Wayne.
Wayne, okay.
And he's a valet driver or valet guy. And I was in Las Vegas for fights last summer with my wife and kids, and they were hanging out with friends out in Summerlin, and I was going to the fights. And in the morning we were going to go meet up with friends for breakfast. So we go downstairs, and we go to get our ticket, our valet ticket. And I'm like, I lost the valet ticket. So I go to the valet driver, say, hey, I don't have my valet ticket. I lost it. I'm staying here. This is my room card. He said, oh, you just go to the front desk, tell them you lost your card. They'll match it to your room. They'll get you a new one. I'm like, not a big deal. Wife's got a baby on the stroller with 3 other kids. I'm like, I'll be right back. Go in. Oh, yeah, you got to go to the valet closet. I'm like, where's that? It's downstairs. Follow us. So follow them. I'm on this freaking journey, right? Go there. It's closed. I'm like, what do we do? Like, well, let me find somebody. We walk outside, talk to the same valet guy. No, you got to go to the front desk. I'm like, no, this guy's from the front desk. Like, well, have him go to the valet closet. We went to the valet closet. They're closed. He's like, they shouldn't be closed. I mean, I'm working. He's like, let me see. So he goes in. Hey, follow me. Follows me. We're going through random places. At this point, it's like 15 minutes. My wife's like, hey, we got to go. Like, where are you at? I'm like, babe, I'm not at the blackjack table. Like, I'm trying to get our freaking car. So finally, like 20 minutes goes by. A guy shows up. Yeah, sorry, I was taking a quick break, smoke break. Here I am. Like, give me your key, your ID. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's my room key. Here's my ID. Like, I'll get your keys. I'll get your car right out. Takes him like 10 minutes. So at this point, it's like a half hour. I'm on the lower floor. She's on the upper floor of the hotel, the valet. She calls me again. I'm like, I'm waiting. And I'm on the phone with my wife, and this guy's got my keys, and he like unlocks the car like he's walking over. I go, oh, hey. I was like, those are my keys. And you are, I'm like, you've got my ID in your hand, and you're holding my keys, and you just turn it on. Like that's, what's your name? I'm like, Matt Thomas. Like, okay, how do I know this is you? I'm like, you have my ID in your hand, and that's my Kia, that's my car. Like, and he's like, walks away. I'm like, hey, hold on, I gotta go. Hey, can I get going? I've got places to be, bro. Like, I've been here for 35 minutes. He's like, I can't validate this. I'm like, what? I'm like, bro, give me my fucking car.
And this is the same guy you gave the ID at the beginning.
No, this is another guy.
Oh, it's another guy. Okay.
Yeah, and so this guy is like, I can't validate this. I'm like, look at my name, look at my face, open the glove box. You'll see that car matches the address on the ID. It's a new car, registration's in there. Like, so I'm like, hey, just give me my car, let me go, right? He's like, security, I need someone else. You're calling security? Is it, you're out of control. And he walks off. I'm like, bro, I've been here for 40 minutes. So security comes, like, what's going on? I was like, dude, this dude's got my keys, he's got my ID, he's got my room key in his hand. He hit the alarm button. I said, oh, cool, babe, I gotta go. He's got my keys. Think we're making progress finally after 45 minutes. And the guy's like, I don't know who this guy is. I'm like, is this guy, did you guys find this guy at the DMV, the most incompetent employment in the world? Like, you've got my ID in your hand. Here's a bank card that says my name, also matching my ID. Like, that's my key. Like, open the glove box, I'll show you the registration. He said, all right, I'll open the glove box. You got to show me the registration. I'm like, okay. We're going almost an hour, bro. Almost an hour. So the security's there. They're on their little bikes, yellow shirts.
The yellow shirt.
And they open the door, open the glove box, and I'm going through. I'm like, new license plates on the car, like the paper plates that California makes you do. So I opened. I was like, I don't have the registration. I just got the car, but here's the car information from the dealer. My name, address, matching the driver's license, everything. I bought it 3 weeks earlier. I can't accept that's not a registration. I'm like, so at that point, I like grabbed the keys out of his hand. I'm like, give me my fucking keys, dude. And the security like grabs me. I'm like, whoa, you can't touch them like that. I said, bro, my wife and kids, we got places to be. I've been here for an hour. So that guy goes and calls like security, another security, and they bring the cops, and the cops come. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, dude, listen, I've been here for over an hour inside this car, showed him my ID. He's got my driver's key. He's got it. He's got all my information. He's saying he can't validate this is my car. He's like, do you have anything that shows that? I was like, that's my license. I'm not trying to steal a car that has a bunch of potato chip crumbs and road trip food snacks from my kids in a car seat with gummy bears stuck to it. Like, this wouldn't be the car of choice at the freaking hotel. I'd steal that Bentley if I was going to steal a car, right? And so finally the cop's like, it sounds like you're getting the runaround. I'm like, I agree. He's like, give the guy his keys. I'm like, okay, keys, done. I go up to pick my wife and kids, and this dude, Wayne, is like walking by. I go, I got my keys. Oh, we talked to the manager. They comped me my room for the headache you caused me. Thanks for the free room. He's like, you're 86, pal. I'm like, fuck you. And
So where do you stay now when you go to Vegas, since you haven't been
Resorts World.
Oh, Resorts World.
Have you stayed there?
Okay. We stayed there once, like
Dude.
right when it opened.
Yeah. So I started staying there about a year ago. Place is legit. I'm a fan. Yeah, they've got good food, good restaurants. They've always got good shows. And
Same
then
with the pool.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I've stayed there a few times. So,
It's weird. Resorts World's like 2 different hotels.
it's 3. Yeah, you got the Hilton, the
Three.
Crockford, and the Conrad. So like the Hilton's like a base level one. Then you got the Crockford and the Conrad is at the higher end one. Henry and I stayed there for the last fight we were at when we were there in, I think.
Is it July?
In July, yeah.
Yeah.
So he stayed there, and my homie Jalen. A lot of the UFC fighters stay there now because Resort World takes care of them and hooks them up. So it's kind of becoming a new place. Like they got like a Carver Steakhouse in there. They've got an 8 lounge, a cigar lounge. They've got some really cool restaurants and bars in there. Really cool environment, cool vibe.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to give it another try because we stayed like right when they opened. So most of the restaurants weren't even open.
For sure.
And it was very dead in there. But I think now,
dude,
it'd
next
be
time
cool.
we go, I'll hit up my homie. He oversees the Carver Steakhouse. It's one of the top steakhouses in Vegas now, he says.
Really?
I like it. You know,
good.
It's
Just
bomb.
basic steakhouse?
It's a higher end steakhouse.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, they've got like normal stuff, but like a good steak, really anywhere you go is like $100, $150. They've got some stuff that's A1 Wagyu. That's like ridiculous pricing that I'm like, I'm not. Take a bite of food for $200. Like, I'm good. When I go to restaurants, I'm a sucker for sweet potato fries.
Ooh,
Sweet potato fries are good.
Some restaurants serve them with honey. That's
Honey
a
and
vibe,
cinnamon.
dude. Yes.
That's what it is. I
Yes.
try to be healthy like that. I overall am like a pretty healthy eater. Like
For sure.
6 days a week I'm
For
eating
sure.
pretty healthy.
You
I'm not
gotta-
on the Five Guys hamburgers yet.
80-20 rule is what I live by. Like 80% healthy, 20% maybe not, maybe it shouldn't, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
I own a cookie store, bro. So
And you brought us some. Thank
I
God.
brought us
Yeah,
some.
thank you
God.
for bringing
for sure.
those.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. And but
Nothing.
thank God I worked out this morning because I'm gonna have
Balance.
to indulge in some of those.
balance, bro.
Balance those. But all right, Matt, it's time to go to end and burn. It's kind of two parts. So the first part is now. So what are some things that you're doing now? What are some burn moments you're facing right now? And then next, what are some burn moments that you see coming in the future?
Yeah, so now I'd say the burn moments right now are really just, like I said, hiring a new CEO, a lot of transitions, and I think a lot of humbling experiences for me. I think I checked my ego a long time ago, a few years back and whatnot. So I've got a new CEO, and so she's coming in, and I hired her because she's fantastic, and she's way better than I am at franchise, and she's done it for 22 years and sold her last company for over $2 billion, right? She knows what she's doing. So it is a humbling moment for me where she comes in and says, hey, here's the things you've done wrong. Here's the things we got to fix. Here's the change we got to make immediately. And it's kind of like, all right, I messed up a bunch. It's like kind of a kick in the gut, but it's the right move. So that's kind of a burn moment, like a humbling moment, Burn moments for the future. I mean, like we talked about earlier, like you can learn from all these. So I'm not hoping for more burn moments, but taking them as they come and seeing what I can learn from them. Some that are upcoming is just the consistent growth. We've got stuff happening in Canada right now. We've got other places around the country that are popping up, and there's always new challenges. There's always new opportunities, new things to learn. I mean, the more we grow, the more issues we face or more threats we face from competition, things like that. And so just being prepared as we grow and handling the situations. Just a lot of those burn moments. Employee turnover is never fun. We've lost a couple of employees in the last handful of months due to some changes. Like certain jobs, hey, we actually don't need this role anymore. We got a new deal with this vendor who they're doing this for us. This role doesn't exist anymore. We appreciate you. Let's have you do this role now. And they're like, hey, I'm frustrated. I don't feel appreciated, right? Which I try to be a friendly person. I try to treat my employees well. And so it's disheartening when you hear those kinds of things. And they're like, I'm going to go find another job. You're like, dude, let's work together. Let's figure out what we can do, Those are burn moments, I think. Opportunities to learn how to be better in the future, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see Cookie Co. in like 5 years?
So we've got goals for that, right? So like within 5 years, we want to have 500 locations. So 5 years from today, we want to have 500 operating locations.
What are you at right now?
Yeah.
25.
25. That's what.
So we got our work cut out for us. But the cool thing is we've got a lot in the pipeline. So the way it works, long story short, is you have stores that are open in the next 30 days, 60, 90, 120, and then you have, your list of prospects who you're talking to and communicating with. And there's 400 or 500 just in that prospect list alone today that we're talking to, vetting, qualifying, seeing if they're interested, if the market's available. So we have a lot of interest, which is good. We've got a great product, which I think people, like my favorite thing ever is when we open in a community like, hey, we haven't gone to this other place since you guys opened. Like, cool. So like the demand is there, right? Mm-hmm. So we just got to keep on opening locations with the right people and up our marketing, up our branding, awareness, stuff like that. So I think we'll get there. That's a goal. 500 in 5 years.
You can do it if you put your mind to it.
Put your mind to it.
You can do anything, bro.
Yeah.
Straight up.
For sure.
I really like what you guys do, though. Is you were telling us that you actually import each ingredient to the store, like by itself, right?
Yeah.
And then they make it fresh every single day in the back.
Yeah, they start at 6 a.m. every day, baking fresh. All of our food is delivered 1 or 2 days a week, depending on where your location's at and how much you need. But we use real eggs, real butter, real sugar. We don't use preservatives like high fructose corn syrup or oil or manufactured eggs. Like real gourmet cookies. Like if your mom were to make cookies for you today, what would she use, right? Like real ingredients. So that's important to my wife and us. And then the cool thing is that, all of our food it comes in a certain way that we could have you being a professional baker by next week if you had a store. Like straight up, like it's foolproof,
Wow.
And it's easy, not easy, but it's teachable.
What made you get into the cookie business?
My wife's always been an awesome baker. She's always been crushing it with baking. She did cupcakes for a long time, and then she started doing cookies. And then we had people from like our neighborhood and like businesses like, hey, like I heard you have great cookies. Like, would you mind catering my event? And she's like, yeah, how many people? And she's like, 1,200. She's like, oof, I've got like an easy bake oven at my house that I'm using. Like I don't even have like a commercial kitchen. So she did it, and people are like, hey, we want to hire you. And they're like, why don't you open your own shop? And she's like, I should. This was like 2016, 2017. So and then she planned for a couple of years, and the time was right in 2019, and we opened in 2020. So
One thing I like is whenever you guys did get started, you guys would start off in the little, I don't know where exactly you were, but you guys would actually hand box the cookies and pass them out.
Yeah.
And what made you, why is your wife called the Cookie Lady?
So in our town, we live in Redlands, California. My wife's born and raised there, basically. And so we've lived there since like 2009. We left for a couple of years for a contract for work I used to have, but we came back. And so when we first started selling cookies, when she came up with the idea, we were just getting like pie boxes, and we bought like a custom stamp that said Cookie Co. on it, and we would stamp the boxes ourselves, let them dry, and we'd put our cookies on them. And we'd go and drop them off at like hospitals, schools, fire stations, police stations, just like places in our community, like first responders, especially during the pandemic, right? Showing appreciation, all that. And then people just started calling her like, oh, the Cookie Lady, her name's Elise. But people are like, oh, the Cookie Lady's here, right? And that kind of became like her like name like in our community and like just overall. So like her Instagram is like Elise the Cookie Lady, because that's the way they call her. So like she has a recipe book coming out in May. We just got the contract all done, and
Nice.
It'll be in Target and all these other places and stuff in a few months. But in there, she's got a couple of cookie recipes that we don't do at the store. That they're like, hey, put a cookie recipe in, and she's like, I don't want to give away my recipes.
Yeah.
But she has a couple that we've
secret
never
stuff.
done, so they're in there and stuff. But I mean, she loves cookies. She runs marathons. Before I left this morning, I waited till she got home because she ran 21 miles today because she has a marathon September 9th. So she jokes that she started running so that she could eat cookies whenever she wanted. But yeah.
So the cookbook is all other dishes besides
So
cookies.
it's breakfast, brunch, lunch, dinner, and then gatherings.
Nice.
So she'll do like gatherings, like cool finger foods and things that she does for like New Year's Eve parties and family friends who come over, and like barbecues and side dishes and stuff. And then her favorite brunches, like she has this thing called French toast casserole.
Sounds unbelievable.
It's stupid good. It's so good. Like I would rather have that for my birthday than cake, straight up.
Really?
So I should have brought you guys. I should have made you guys some.
Oh.
Next time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll
So-
just get the copy and try it out ourselves.
Dude,
and then we'll give it to her and you guys and see how good we did.
Come out, check out our location in Redlands for a day and hang out, and we'll do like dinner. And I'll just have her make a few things. Like Jalen Turner, you know Jalen?
Yeah, yeah.
So Jalen came over. I called him one day when he wasn't even in camp yet, and I'm like, "Yo, what are you doing?" He's like, "I just got done training." I'm like, "You want to come over?" He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" I'm like, Elisa's doing photos for her cookie book today, so she's just got tons of food over, just being photos and stuff. And he came over, and he probably gained like 9 pounds that day. He just ate everything. He's like, "Bro, what is this called?" He's like, "This is the best thing I ever had." So like, she like will like make food and like tell Jalen to come over and taste it. So like, we had a video on Instagram the other day that like got a ton of traffic, where like me and Jalen were going through and like canceling our lowest performing cookies.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
So we're like canceled. And Jalen's like, "What? That's one of my favorite." Not that, bro, the data says it's a low performing cookie. He's like, "Give it one more shot," right? So yeah. So that's how she became a cookie lady, and now she's kind of, became this like little. We've had some people reach out to us. I think it was either Netflix or Prime, one of them, about doing like a show.
Oh.
And we were entertaining that for a little bit, and they want us to do like a little trailer kind of a thing.
What is the show?
It's just like not even a reality show.
Like
it's
a behind the scenes.
behind the
almost?
scenes kind of a show, like starting your business during the pandemic to where you are now and the growing pains of being a successful female entrepreneur, right? And so we've talked about doing that, and she's like, I don't know if I want like my kids on camera. I don't know if I want people to see this like part of my life because my life is crazy. I'm like, but that's what people like. People like chaos, right?
And they want the real stuff too.
the real stuff,
Authentic stuff.
And that's how she became, and that's why she started her Instagram. But before we even opened our door, she had like 35,000 followers on Instagram because she's like, hey, like, I'm a mom of 4. My life's a mess. This is just raw, authentic material. Moms were like, thank you for being like a real person and not trying to say that you look beautiful when you wake up and that your kids are perfectly behaved and your house is never messed, right? She's like, my life is crazy. So just real and authentic. I think people like that,
Yeah.
So
You guys got a lot of stuff brewing. I'm happy for you guys.
trying to, man. Taking opportunities as they come. Thank you guys. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Matt.
Appreciate
Thank you. You just spelt burning your life, so thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
Tell
me.
the audience where they can find you on Instagram, your website, your cookies, everything.
Yeah. Website, Instagram is just Cookie Co. So just Cookie Co Instagram handle. Website, cookieco.com. We got an app launch coming in about 2 weeks, beginning of September. So we'll be able to, all locations will be shipping, and all those locations need to do curbside pickup, all that. So a lot of good things coming. So
You heard the man. Go give some love to Cookie Co. And Matt, as a gift for coming on the podcast, you will be getting the Black Label Edition Burn Factory hoodie where only guests get these, so no other strangers.
sick.
Ooh, wear it loud, wear
Here
it
you
proud.
go, sir.
I will, 100%. I brought you guys some gifts too. I brought you guys some cookies. So these were made this morning before I left. First out of the oven this
Fresh.
morning. So yeah, chocolate chip.
nice.
Whole bunch of
Good
them.
thing
So
I worked out. I need to indulge in some of those. Let's see.
check
Let's
it
give
out
these
on
a look.
camera. So this is the 6-pack, right? So we got 6 flavors each week.
We'll open it.
Chocolate chip
well,
is a
don't.
staple. Frosted sugar. The one on the top right, that's Monster.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
this is what I had in the car.
The which one?
The orange.
Yeah, the frosted sugar.
Let's give
yeah.
it a little show.
Yeah.
They smell unbelievable.
Caramel apple crumb. That one's bomb. It's kind of like a muffin. So I love that one to the bottom right.
Oh
But,
man.
Is this
Should we
like
give it
strawberry sauce?
Yeah, it's strawberries. Yeah. I actually think that one's raspberry. Raspberry.
raspberry?
Jam. Yeah.
What is this one?
Caramel apple crumb.
Caramel apple crumb.
So it's kind of like the muffin top, like the crumb muffins, right? It's kind of
Get a
like the
little
topping
taste
of that.
We'll give it. I'll
Taste
pull,
test
pull
it.
a little.
One bite, everybody knows the rules.
One bite. Everyone knows the rules. Oh, this is a fire and ice episode, but only ice. Wow.
Dude, they're so.
Oh my God.
That's the thing is that we.
That is unbelievable.
Thank you.
It melts in your mouth. Oh. And this one was a caramel apple.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Number one.
That one's number one? Was that like sugar?
Mm-hmm.
We'll give the sugar one a little
He
taste.
tried that one in the car when we were in Vegas.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
He rated that one number 1 then too.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
That's his go-to. He loves the frosted with the sprinkles.
The chocolate chip is an OG.
Unbelievable. All right, put these away. I can't be eating them.
Give them to me.
Trying to keep my summer body on.
Summer's over, bro.
Summer's over.
Not for me. I'm joking. And always, please visit my foundation at thepriestjamesfoundation.org. Again, thepriestjamesfoundation.org to understand why this is called the Burn Factory.
Like always, like, comment, and subscribe at the Burn Factory Podcast. And we'll see you guys for the next episode. Peace.
All right, guys, we're here with Matt Thomas, who just spelled burn in his life, and he is now the Burn Factory Podcast champion.
Thank you.
And still, the best cookies ever.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
and
you for
sharing
having me.
your story. I know you were an inspiration to a lot of people out there to keep going.
you guys are. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You have fun? You enjoy it?
It was great. Awesome.
Awesome.
It was fun.